Fanalysis uses the analytics of fantasy football combined with the metrics of sports betting to find the sharpest angles. And for that, we bring in a sports handicapper you can find on Twitter as Old Man Who Bets, Geoff Sheasby, and a sports investment analyst from SportsGrid, Jared Smith. Guys, the Super Bowl is here, our final Fanalysis, and the line really hasn't moved a whole lot. It's sticking at 3 right now. Geoff, I know you're an analytical guy, but I want to throw out a non-analytical stat and get your reaction to this. Over the past 16 Super Bowls, the home team wearing white jerseys have won 81% of the time. And Tampa is in white. Are you buying that?
I'm not buying the jersey color as a reason to bet the Bucs, but I do love the Bucs. If we're going to talk narrative and not data, I want to talk about how I can fade the public betting on Tom Brady, who covers at a career 58%. As a home dog in the Super Bowl, an actual home team, first time ever. I don't know how you can bet against that. I love the Bucs at +3. That's the narrative I want to riff off of.
Oh, okay. Well, here's the thing, Jared. The favorite has actually covered the last 2 Super Bowls. Is there a belief it could be 3 in a row?
I think it will. This is a fascinating debate because both Geoff and I are on opposite sides. We aren't on opposite sides very often, but I just can't. I can't fade Patrick Mahomes in this spot. He has proven time and time again, regardless of how many points he's down, regardless of the grandeur of the stage, that no stage is too big for him. We saw him in this spot last year. They were down in the fourth quarter. They had a 21-0 fourth quarter against the 49ers. They've done it time and time again in this spot. And until proven otherwise, I know Tom Brady has done it on the big spot, but he's also failed in the big spot many times. And until Patrick Mahomes shows me that he's not ready for this kind of a stage, he's the best player in the sport. He's the guy who I want my money on.
That's the thing, Geoff. I mean, if you're betting resume versus resume, I mean, they really don't measure up. How much importance do you put on what these 2 quarterbacks have done in the past?
What they've done in the past, it doesn't really interest me, outside of maybe the back half of this season. Both of these guys are experienced quarterbacks. Both have Super Bowl experience. I'm looking at the team game here. Of course, both of those guys are important. But when it comes down to it, we've got Tampa Bay in terms of overall defense or overall team efficiency at number 2. We've got Kansas City at number 3. We've got this defense, number 6 in terms of overall efficiency for Tampa Bay, number 24 for Kansas City. And everybody loves talking about this Kansas City offense. Of course, they're fantastic. But interestingly enough, overall efficiency, Tampa Bay, weighted DVOA, number 2, Kansas City, number 3. So, again, combo that narrative with pretty much every efficiency stat pointing to Tampa Bay. I'm fading the public. I'll be on the Bucs.
And to make this really play out, you've got to kind of tell yourself a story as to how this game is going to play. Sammy Watkins has a calf injury. We don't know what his status is going to be for this game. We know the Chiefs have offensive weapons, and clearly, Jared, the number 1 weapon for the Chiefs is Tyreek Hill. Is there even a path for the Bucs to contend in this game if they can't slow down Tyreek Hill?
Well, I think that'll be their main focus. And I think if you go back and you watch the game these 2 teams played, I believe it was week 12, the Bucs fell down big because Tyreek Hill went absolutely bonkers. I think he had like 270 yards receiving in that game. My guess is if I'm the Chiefs and you take Tyreek Hill off the chessboard, you're going to make Patrick Mahomes dink and dunk your way down the field. I think that's good for a guy like Sammy Watkins. I think that's good for a guy like Travis Kelce. I think it's good for the running game for the Chiefs as well, because you're right. The focus will be, we can't let Tyreek Hill score 3 touchdowns and go for 250 yards. That is a surefire way to lose this game. So I think the narrative, that game script that you speak of, in order for the Chiefs to win this game without Tyreek Hill having a big game, is going to be the other players on that offense. I think Watkins is a great buy low spot in the prop markets this week as well. You're going to have to buy high on Kelce. His number is pretty astronomical, but I can see a path to victory for the Chiefs, even if Tyreek Hill does not have one of those explosive performances.
And Geoff, a lot of times I love to look at how Vegas gives odds on each one of these, like in this instance, the MVP, to kind of get an idea as to how this game is going to play out. And I was so surprised that Shaq Barrett, defensive end for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, was so high on the list of contending MVPs. Does that lead you to believe that Vegas has an insight into what this Bucs defense can do?
I mean, I think this Bucs defense is going to absolutely bring it. We're talking about Tyreek Hill here, who went off for 270 and 3 scores. They only won that game by 3 points. Do we think it's more likely that Tyreek goes off for historical numbers again, or he doesn't, and the Bucs perhaps put up more than 24. I think Kansas City defense here is the liability. I think the offense of the Bucs is firing on all cylinders. You've got wide receiver 1, Mike Evans, wide receiver 1, Chris Godwin, wide receiver 1, Antonio Brown, and wide receiver 3, Scotty Miller. So this offense can contend as well. I think what happened in the first one was Brady was pressured early and often, and his checkdowns just weren't working out. This team is way more polished than they were even in Week 12. They're firing on all cylinders. I don't think Tyreek. I think he goes off. I don't think he goes off for 270 yards and 3 touchdowns. And if he doesn't do that, do they win by? I mean, if he only scores one of those, they probably lose that game. So, the guy can go off. Even if he does, I think the Bucs are Bucs to the side.
And there's one other narrative here that maybe we should take a peek at, and that's Andy Reid coming off of a bye. Since 2003, his teams are 17-11 when they have an extra week's worth of practice. Does that play a role at all in this game for you?
I think it does. I think, and again, you're the best executives on the planet, Steve, are the ones that surround themselves with very good people, and I think that's what Andy Reid has done. Eric Bieniemy's done an incredible job as the offensive coordinator of this team, and I think the one name we really should keep an eye on, maybe we are, underselling Steve Spagnuolo a little bit, who's had a lot of success against Tom Brady in big games in the past. I know here in the New York area, we are very familiar with that. So I actually kind of like this Chiefs defense a little more than I think people think. I think that's going to be one of the units that might surprise you a little bit on Sunday. We know about the Chiefs offense. The defense constantly gets, I think, pushed to the side. They've come up big in big spots in the past, and it's a similar unit to what we saw last year and what we saw last week or 2 weeks ago, shut down Josh Allen and arguably the hottest offense in the NFL. So I don't want to sell that Chiefs defense too short. I trust Steve Spagnuolo. I trust Andy Reid to put his people in the right place, and it has been a very impressive trend off the bye week, and that certainly includes the Super Bowl as well.
Does that trend concern you at all, Geoff, when you were looking at all the analytics?
I mean, it doesn't make me feel good about how good, the Chiefs are off of an extra week of rest by any means. But if that was such a key point here, why is the line only 3? We're talking about 2 teams that are obviously going to battle here. You look at points per play, slight lean both times on offense and defense for the Bucs. In terms of yards per play, pretty even as well. So just like we said against the Saints, just like I said against the Packers, if all things are even, I'm taking the points. And once again, pointing me right back to Tampa Bay. +3, +3.5 is even better. Maybe even sprinkle plus 140 on the money line.
Giants fans can kind of lean on either side here, right? Because they have, they can hate on Tom Brady, but Tom Brady's team also has the former Giant JPP on it as well. So there are plenty of Giants connections in this game.
And Jason Pierre-Paul's never lost a playoff game, Steve. He's 7-0 in playoffs.
So he's the reason, right? Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, and listen, this is, and I'll bring it back just for a second because, Geoff makes a ton of great points, and I don't think you can go wrong betting either side here. At this stage of the game, at this stage of the betting season, we've done Fanalysis now for 17 weeks of the season, plus 4 weeks of the playoffs, and even the bye week last week. The lines, the books, they're bright and shiny for a reason. These are the sharpest lines of the season. It is hard to find an edge in the market. Geoff is right. If all else is even, you take the spread. But also, this is the Super Bowl, and I think you have a little more fun, maybe a little more of a public joke kind of game than in weeks past. Normally, I would be on the side of the analytics, but this is a week, Steve. I just feel like I'm going to go with my gut. I think Patrick Mahomes is the better player, and that's why I'm backing the Chiefs. I don't have any fancy analytical reasons to back Kansas City because the numbers definitely point to taking the points, especially if you get the 3 in the hook. But I just feel like this is the Mahomes dynasty starting on Sunday.
Well, here's the thing. We love data. Data actually points us to true information. So I'll let Geoff have the last word on what data point you'd like to bring up that will sell you on the Bucs in this one.
Yeah, I mean, literally every data point sells me on the Bucs in this one. If you want to look at team efficiency from Football Outsiders, all 3 of those lean towards the Bucs. If you want to look at yards per play, points per play, 3 out of 4 of those categories is going to lean towards the Bucs. Strength of schedule, one that we haven't touched on, according to TeamRankings.com, we've got Kansas City at 9, we've got Tampa Bay at 1. So maybe we even downgrade those Kansas City stats a touch. Once again, I'm on the Bucs. Go Tom Brady. Let's get a win. Let's get a 7th ring, and let's get a cover.
That's a look at the spread, but will the betting the over-under be maybe an easier call? Check that out in our other segment. For Jared Smith of SportsGrid and Geoff Sheasby, I'm Steve Overmyer. This is Fanalysis.